It seems we have everything ready to go, so excuse me for a moment.
I'm not even going to ask about half the gifts I'm being sent now.
All right, I apologize to everyone I just muted, but now we're going to be going into the actual meeting, so some officiality, please. Currently, the only people that have access to voice chat are myself, DumDum, and Churchy on account of them being the community manager. After we get through the questions detailed in the thread and start taking in questions from the listeners, then all you need to do is warn me or DumDum in particular, and we can unmute you for any question you might want to answer. Hold
Remember
on.
that I am the mailbox.
All right, Tiger, is this recording? Please send me the PM or just text me or something. All right, it seems to be recording. So, everyone, welcome to the fourth Paradise Community Meeting. DumDum, you want to say something while I put up the at everyone in the announcement?
Right, so basically I'm going to be acting as a terrible mailbox for you to spam messages at, and usually questions, so I'll try to get to every single one of them, usually in the order that they're sent, but be aware Discord is odd sometimes and reorders things depending on how I've looked at them or just recency. So just don't spam message me, please. We also have a community meeting chat, which is currently labeled as community meeting-archived, which should be used for normal discussion. Then you have meeting-questions, which is where you should be able to, once it's made available to everyone, actually post a bunch of little things. Just be aware that chat is usually filled with so much spam that you have absolutely no way of getting your question across. So best of luck.
In the thread, I have a document here that was written by Nicoladin, the third head of staff. It has a preamble that says, "Hi everyone, and thank you for making it. I apologize for my absence, but due to the fact that I'm on the other side of the world for most of the server and for once have normal sleeping patterns, I'm currently asleep and eating spiders. I look forward to, and I've prepared a few answers in case people want my opinions on top of others. So we will be indicating what questions are being answered by Nicoladin's words, and if possible, we will add our own opinions on top." So the first question from the thread, discounting Lightfire's stupid question, is from V Gauntlet, are there any plans in regards to addition of any other races? And if not, are there any plans to tweak current ones? In regards to the first question, Nicoladin says no races are currently being planned or in the works. And I have to echo this. Currently, there are no official plans from the maintainers or coders. And in regards to tweaking current ones, Nicoladin writes, for sure, while there is nothing specific off the top of my head, tweaking of races is something that we will expect to be happening forever. Unfortunately, this is always something that I'm sure DumDum will agree with me is a touchy subject, specifically race balance. Isn't that right?
Yep. That, and also it depends generally not just the balance, but also the maintainers have to look over how it's coded, and basically I think the continual complaints that we get about IPC fluff code is kind of telling that really I'm not sure how, I guess, alien the races can be, but yeah, remove IPC is being sent in the thing. But more or less, that's, I have nothing else to say on it, really.
The issue being that IPCs are a very good indicator of what happens when you try to have too much unique stuff, because the more unique you make something, the more unique the systems have to be. And if there's anything that anyone should know, is that coders hate snowflaking. Next question will be, hold on. When will Metastation be open more frequently? The box is all right, but I like change once in a while. And the answer that we have here is Metastation is not currently planned to be in active rotation, but as it is pretty much ready, apart from some minor map edits, you can expect more tests of it where we'll gauge how frequently we use it depending on its reception. An idea that we have bounced around for some time is the idea of basically having X number of Metastation rounds per week, say automatically 3 times per week. Right now, it's been very, very sporadic and ad hoc, and we will be moving towards trying to have it a bit more automated to pick up the pace on what little work is still required to get it done. Anyone want to add something? DumDum?
Nope.
All right, next question. And of course, this is a doozy. Will we ever start enforcing a higher standards on roleplay and possibly meta information restrictions, i.e., anti-gateway and other departments? And will we ever enforce mandatory CMD or clone memory disorder? Now, before we get onto our responses to this, I will once again like to read what Nicoladin left for us. It's a bit long, so bear with me. There are currently no plans to restrict anti information. To do so would be a huge change to the balance and climate of Paradise, as it's something we've had since day one. I'm personally very strongly against the information a character knows being limited to the job. A job shouldn't define a character like that. Restricting knowledge for the gateway itself would be something that ideally I'd love, as characters shouldn't have knowledge of what's beyond it, but practically speaking, is not something that is easy to do. There are just too many ways that knowledge of the gateway is able to be used that will be impossible to be consistent. This is one of the many reasons that I detest the gateway. Again, this is Nicoladin's response. We haven't gotten onto ours. Continuing. Clone memory disorder has always felt too heavy-handed to me. There is also too many ways people can accidentally slip up or intentionally act on information with no clear indication of what they're doing. As above, it'd be a huge amount of extra work on admins that have to actively monitor. I'd also like to point out that both clone memory disorder and anti information being restricted don't necessarily make for better roleplay. CMD is part of the lore on some of the servers, but following that lore or not isn't necessarily better or higher roleplay. For myself, roleplaying having to find out that vampires are real or that I'm a clone who just died for the 9,000th time would bore me to tears. That is Nicoladin's response. Dum Dum, would you like to say something in regards to the question?
I'll let you go first if you'd like to.
No, go right ahead.
All right. Well, basically, I have to concur with NECA on that, where it's basically enforcing RP in that kind of style of you don't know this is... It's a bit more difficult to tell when people know something and are tending to use it to basically affect the round. And there are multiple ways to do that, either being obvious of, like, okay, CV walks in, picks up surgery tools, immediately does surgery, most of chem, then walks out. That would be incredibly obvious. However, something more, I guess, subtle would be helping out a surgeon every now and then as a blue shield or something, or, I guess, very slight influences. It's not exactly easy to pinpoint, nor would it be really easy to enforce. You could make the argument that really what we should be stomping out is more of the incredibly obvious breaks and gaps and things, but tends to be a lot less fun for everything. And just in terms of balance, I guess, I think everyone's worked around kind of having everyone understand what's at an Antag's disposal, what they can end up doing in a certain job, that kind of thing. RP is kind of, a lot of it leans on players more or less than admin enforcement of said rules. Usually you'll have different players end up going in, and they're kind of the role model players. They're the people that other players will try to end up emulating and just trying to spin things that way because they tend to get more recognition. It's kind of easier to say that we should encourage people to become more roleplay oriented so that we get better role models, not necessarily slap people with, this is how things are, this is a lore book, do this.
Additionally, it requires a lot of proactive work on the side of the admins, and then, of course, you go into the problem of what exactly is the role play that we will be enforcing, because what we see is people asking for harsher enforcement of role play, but never actually defining what that role play should be. And what that role play should be is pretty much 99% of the work to be done, and it's not something that at this point we can offer a unified direction on, because essentially everyone has their personal preferences, and trying to find a compromise between all of them would be insanely and head-destroyingly difficult. Want to add something, Dumb, or should I proceed?
No,
or
that would be it.
I think we're good.
That's Churchy.
All right. We have a couple of answers from the maintainer team of TigerCat 2000, Fox MC McLeod, and Crazy Lemon. In regards to Linda, or should we say perhaps the shift over to Fastmost that many people have noticed has been tested many times in the past few months? The answer that we have here is very simple. Currently, item throwing, is the biggest concern for a faster Linda. Even with a few patchwork fixes, it has demonstrated to hang controllers. This alone is reason for it to be viewed with suspicion. On the whole, we're on the same page for increasing Linda's speed. We're skeptical of adding throwing to the atmospheric system at this time. Another concern is that brings in complete dependency on the current cycling airlock system, which is a convoluted system we eventually would like to phase out. This is the answer we get from the maintainers. I would like to add a bit more of information on my side. They mention the over-reliance on the cycling airlock system and point it out as something bad. While I'm not technically capable enough to tell you just how bad it is, I can in fact tell you that it's one of the few things that I've legitimately seen make pretty much all of our maintainer team almost seethe with rage with how badly coded it is. In regards to Linda itself, as you can see, currently the problem is how it may hang controllers and the way that throwing items work. This is technically a very code-based question, and if Tiger Cat would like to answer that, please PM me so I can give you voice chat permissions. Since Tiger Cat's far more qualified to answer this than me. Or you can just be talking on the channel right now. Okay. There you go. Alright, Tiger Cat is currently on a laptop and has no microphone. So if you would like me to tell something to the people here, please just write it down. And after the next question, we will go back to it. The question was regarding what's holding up Linda, specifically the part about item throwing, Tiger Cat. Now you go out with your answers, and we'll move on to the second question. In regards to ballistics and the use of ballistics in security, once again, this is an answer that comes from the maintainer team, and it is as follows. We all think ballistics are really cool and neat thematically, but they bring up a number of problems. Thematically, there's always been a divide. Syndicate are heavily ballistics-based, and Nanotrazen are very energy-based. Introducing consistent or persistent ballistics to security damages that. Outside of that, the primary reason we do not support them moving forward is that the game balance impacts. Most of security's interactions are already tied to energy weapons, armor values, for instance. Additionally, ballistics have a few nasty benefits we do not want in security's hands constantly. Namely, a weapon that you can carry around hordes of ammo and is immune to EMP. Other noteworthy problems that generate are their ability to bypass normally security-specific counters such as E-shields, double-bladed energy swords, and the ablative armor. So to summarize, the reason why we're very reticent in adding ballistics to security are their balance concerns and how they impact balance between antagonists and Nanotrazen forces. Dom, would you like to add something in regards to that?
Nothing on that.
Churchy?
No, I think you got it all.
All right. On to the next question, which is, hold on. Where is it? Ah, here we go. Hold on. The thread is very big. In regards to whether or not we are going to promote or encourage the creation of original content. This is once again an answer that comes from the maintainers, though technically it was reworded by myself in order to more accurately fit the spirit of the question. And this very much summarizes not just the opinions of the maintainer team, but also the heads of staff. And that is, we will continue to help out coders and potential code-based contributors to submit their PRs, be they original features or ported content, as we always have. There are currently no plans to proactively encourage individuals to submit more original content, as it does require that players learn how to code in Beyond's language, but we are always open to suggestions in that regard. And what this means is, if anyone listening here or listening in the future has any ideas on how to proactively encourage further creation of original content, we are quite literally all ears. But at this point, there is currently no project to proactively encourage more original content. Dom, Churchy, would you like to add something to that?
Nothing really, because I'm not too familiar with it, honestly.
Churchy?
Yeah. Nah, I think I'm good, but I think you nailed it right there with what you said.
All right. Now, we have a couple of questions we have answered here, again from Nicoladin. The questions are, I heard a while back about security in simple terms being OOCally allowed to be a bit mafia-esque and crack Grey-Tide kneecaps. Is that viable? There's been some talk in the past about making security more attractive to play. What's the current status on that? And finally, but on a serious note, will there be changes about the relations and rules between Grey-Tide and security? This is a bit of a doozy. And we're going to be reading Nicoladin's response before moving on to ours. And Nicoladin says, in regards to OOCally being allowed to be security, this is unlikely to change, but as always, may be done with admin permission. This doesn't mean you're going to get permission to airlock the clown for calling you security. A calm, polite A-help, which explains the reasons why you would like to take such actions, has much better chances than a salty A-help screaming about how shit someone is. I don't see any changes for the rules in towards how security can treat Grey-Tiders. Quite simply, I do not trust players as a whole to be able to judge Grey-Tide themselves and not become a red tide themselves. The current measures we've been working towards making security more attractive mostly involve curbing Grey-Tide and abuse where we can, while at the same time making sure people can still commit crimes and be arrested without being antaxed. It's a fine line and a difficult one to get right. This is Nicoladin's response. Dumb or churchy? This is something that would very much I and very much everyone here would like to know your opinion on. So, who wants to go first?
Church, if you'd like to.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So for me, security is kind of one of the most difficult things to discuss because there's, I guess, a big divide between there's some really old SEC players and SEC regulars that tend to play, I'd argue, one of the most unrewarding and sometimes unsatisfying jobs in the entire game because, well, everyone is breathing down your neck and screaming at you half the time. So recently, in cases involving security, I've asked some people to usually go a bit lighter, try to understand a bit more in terms of what security tends to have to deal with, because rounds do get chaotic, and when security is the role in charge of pretty much all the lethal implements on the station by, I don't know, red alert, then they end up tending to have the most issues with, you know, okay, this prisoner is doing this. Do I use this much force or do I detain non-lethally or what ends up happening there, that kind of thing. So a no holds barred approach is kind of not what I would be going for at all, but kind of understanding the reasoning for security to be acting the way they are, or basically understand there are genuinely too many people for them to deal with sometimes to actually, I guess, get them. Because by the end of a shift, I want to say if we're at like 100+ people, the amount of security officers, I believe, has a hard cap at some point. And it's based off of the different civilian roles that, specifically civilian, that are currently active, or so I think. Basically, once the hard cap for SEC is hit, then just an infinite amount of civilians can join, and since they don't really have a job, then they either tend to screw around a lot more or cause a bit of trouble for SEC. So it can't really get a clean answer off of this just because I want to see security understood a bit more while at the same time being careful of people who actually are acting as security or red tide in that order.
Also, the main problem that we have is that affecting security's ability to do their job is inherently a balance type question, and we all know how difficult it is for balance to get through without any sort of controversy. The issue, of course, with allowing security to have more free reign in handling, quotation marks, the gray tide, is that it runs the very real risk of the whole becoming the monster thing. And the last thing we need is a security team that basically resorts to harm batoning someone's legs off at the slightest amount of frustration. So it's a very difficult compromise. It's a very difficult balance, and one that many times before has not actually been handled properly. In fact, it's one of the main reasons we even have the valid hunting rule, which was trying to curb the whole thing and put it in the hands of security. But unfortunately, with the amount of population we have, we're probably going to have to start looking into further responses, such as maybe increasing the number of officer job slots. Anyone else want to add something?
Security is just a really broad subject and kind of hard to touch on. So, yeah, it's just really hard to get it down, you know. So I'm just having a hard time trying to think of what to say.
This is basically how the entire discussion goes in staff. It's something that we understand is an issue, but we can't really do a lot directly, and it has to be indirectly through both code-based decisions and policy changes. The issue, of course, being that, as I'm sure many people who played security know, security is a role that is very easy to burn people out on and has a very, very high turnover rate in terms of players going in and then going out. The amount of player retention is objectively much smaller than more easygoing departments such as, for example, I don't know, like cargo or even science, especially because security's job is to essentially infringe on everyone else's fun to some degree or another, which inevitably puts most of the station in a more antagonistic position towards security. And sometimes it is somewhat hard not to take things a bit personally and just say, fuck it, I'm out, and then not play security for like a whole month afterwards. It's something that we would very much like to receive feedback from the community on, and if anyone else has any suggestions on it, please do contact a member of the staff so that they can raise your suggestion with the rest of the staff. Anyway, next question being, in relation to the above questions regarding security and Grey Tide control, are we porting base station's stomp feature? No, we are not. It will cause way too many problems, and we are most likely not going to port it in. And if it is ported in, we're most likely not going to merge it anyway. Related to the above, are peacekeeping Borg going to be a thing? I just learned about them, and I love them. Currently, as it stands, it would appear that we will be implementing Peacekeeper Borgs as a separate thing from Security Borgs and not as a replacement if they even go through it in the first place. Last I saw, we were looking into the individual models and how to best tweak them. So for those of you who are worried about Peacekeeper Borgs replacing Security Cyborgs, worry no more. That is not actually going to happen literally ever. Next question. Where can we find the results of the player survey that is linked to upon joining the server? Dum, do you have the link on hand or something?
I actually had no damn idea that existed, so hold on. Let me just
Isn't that
bring up the thing right here. I'm pretty
That's
sure
Sigholt's thing,
yeah.
All right, so
that's his poll. You would have to ask him.
Yeah, because we don't actually have the link on hand, those of you who would like to know the results of the Paradise survey would have to contact Sigholt Starsong. Can you write down his name on the admin community thing, please?
Yeah, hold on.
Basically, just contact Sigholt Starsong, and they should have the link. Or I think could be DTX has currently putting it up in the channel right now. Yeah, I think that's it. Can you check the link? Yeah, it's that. Okay, so for those of you who want to know, could be DTX is putting it up on the admin community channel. Text chat the link for Google Docs for the State of Paradise survey. Or apparently not. Oh, that's just a survey, not the actual results. Oh, all right. Are you sure about that, Flatus? Oh, okay. All right, so apparently this is still a survey and not actually results. So those of you who want to know, just contact Sigholt Starsong, and they should have the results. And if they don't have the results, well then, too bad, we don't have the results either. Anyway, next question.
DTX is saying something about being able to access the results somehow from the survey.
You're going to have to go ahead and check that for yourself. Next question. When can we expect the Alien or Xenomorph game mode to be brought back into rotation? Nickelodeon's answer is, no current plans. I have no knowledge of anyone working on how to fix the game mode itself, and it's a pretty low priority. Honestly, if you want a great Xeno experience, hit Colonial Marines up. That's their specialty. Are there any? Oh, wait, no, that's another question. Never mind. Yeah, essentially speaking, we don't really have any plans to put the Xeno game mode into rotation after fixing the broken Xenomorph game mode, and we're more than happy to just keep Xenomorphs as a late game major event. And really, if you'd like to see a game mode based around Xenomorphs, I would honestly also recommend you hit Colonial Marines. That's literally what they do. Dumb? Churchy? Anything?
There's really not much else I would even have to say about Xeno. Kind of a borked round type a bit.
Yeah, they're kind of hard to balance an entire roundabout because they can really snowball really quickly if you let them, or it can be over in like 5 minutes. It's hard to balance around.
That and tackle and facehugger throwing and that kind of thing is fun.
I'm sure you can remember how it was like when it was a game mode where it either ended in the first like 15 minutes where the Xenos exterminated everything, or it turned into an extremely unfun slogging match where half the station was just killed.
Oh, I remember like player-controlled facehuggers. So.
Oh Jesus, yeah, that was awful. It was ages ago, like 2+ years ago or something.
Yeah, like back when we had player-controlled space carp and spiders.
Jesus.
Aside from terror spiders.
No plans of bringing that back anytime soon.
Spam space carp.
All right, next question. When are you going to cease collecting surplus funds for Paradise via the Patreon system? I'm going to read Nicoladin's response to this before providing my own. And Nicoladin's response is, no current plans. We've only recently hit enough of a surplus that we have enough of a safety net to allow us to start looking at viable uses for excess funds. Things like code bounties and other payments have legal and ethical considerations. We take these very seriously and don't intend to rush into anything. Now for my question, as currently I am the person who is more or less in charge of the whole finance distribution part of Paradise.
I don't have access as I'm underage.
Yeah, pretty much. And Nicoladin is also often unable to access the accounts. Currently, we have a system whereby we do not spend any money on anything until we have at least a minimum 6 months of server upkeep. Currently, server upkeep is, if I'm not mistaken, $166 per month. That covers the costs for the server itself and for the CDN system that allows for better connection in pretty much every habitable continent. And the system we have right now is we will not spend money on anything except server upkeep until we have 6 months worth of server upkeep stored away in our PayPal account. As it seems and it sounds, we have only recently hit that safety margin last month. We take security and the safety net very seriously, and we're not exactly in any way or mood to start spending money right away until we have a guarantee that we have enough money in case something goes terribly wrong. As it sounds, unfortunately, and as Nicoladin pointed out, there are a lot of legal considerations to take into mind when we're trying to pay something for someone else, because at which point can we just give money without contacting the tax man? At which point we have to worry about PayPal guidelines, because currently the PayPal account is measured in Australian dollars. It's based in Australia. It's accessed by a guy in Portugal who used to pay for a server that is in America. So not exactly what you would call the simplest or least convoluted of systems. As it stands, however, we've just recently reached a point where we have enough of a safety net for 6 months, and we will be thinking on how to properly use the excess money that we have, because frankly, it is something that is very hard to think, very hard to take into consideration, and it's something that, as Nicoladin said, we have absolutely no intention of rushing into. Dom, do you have anything to say about that?
Not really, as I don't have access to anything financial, so I have no idea on the state of that.
Yeah, pretty much. Money is always a complication. Anyway, next question is, will we ever get Lava Land?
Please.
Nicoladin says, I bloody well hope so, but sadly it's quite complicated and requires a lot of yak shaving to get done. Steps are being made slowly yet surely. For those of you who don't know what yak shaving is basically when you're trying to do something and you finish that something and then you realize you have yet another step to take. and so forth and so forth and so forth. Lava Land is a very complicated thing to port over, but as far as I myself am aware of, it is currently being worked on, I think. Anyone else want to say something?
Oh.
No.
Oh dear.
Oh, apparently Purpose is saying the guy who was doing Lava Land quit. Oh, fantastic. I'm sure we'll find someone to pick up the slack, even if we have to possibly, I don't know, tie them to a chain in Tony's basement or something. Oh well. Next question would be, blah, blah, blah. Are there any plans on creating new jobs or expanding and tweaking current jobs, such as bureaucratic jobs like NT Rep, etc.? No new jobs are specifically planned at the moment. We imagine there will be some eventually, but currently there's nothing planned. The problem with making new jobs is that there are a million ideas, but not many of them are good. And the ones that are either require excessively complicated implementation or they will require a lot of work and dedication, and we can't really make people do that. Currently, new jobs are very low on the priority list, but if anyone listening currently wants to implement a new job and wants to go the whole length of coming up with a new job and finding the niche they have to work in and setting up everything code-wise, then you're absolutely free to do so. And that goes into the whole original content thing we were speaking about before. If you want to create a brand new job for Paradise, well, that's on you. You're going to have to start working on it, and you're going to have to start making the PR yourself.
Please no customs.
Also, yeah, please no customs, please. Customs is terrible.
I love
Not
customs.
again. I did love customs because you got to play the Papers, Please music, but aside from that...
It was bad. Next question is, do we have any plans for implementing forum chat like Colonial Marines have on their forum? I wish we had one. Nickelodeon says, we used to have this, but the Discord has pretty much replaced it. It was unusually used and honestly caused a lot more problems than it was worth in regards to moderation. The problem is the forum chat was something that we used to have way before Discord was even a thing, way back when we still used Skype for staff chat. And as soon as Discord was a thing, forum chat took a massive dip in activity. And the problem is, really, when the server went down, so did the forum chat. So everyone just kind of migrated over to the Discord to ask for when the server was down. Currently, we have no real plans to re-implement forum chat because we really don't see any reason to do so. Because, again, Discord is a thing. It's much easier to moderate, much easier to manage. Anyone else?
Nope, you pretty much said everything.
All right. Oh boy, we have Jesus, 1A, 1B, 1C. Okay, so we have a three-part question. Fantastic. 1A, what is your opinion on the GitHub's current lack of contributors? Apologies, people don't know
Perfect.
what the fucking locked. People at my house don't know what a locked door means. Anyway, question 1A: what is your opinion on the GitHub's current lack of contributors and the GitHub having such a low rate of new PR submissions? Nickelodeon says, with PR number 8,000 recently hitting the GitHub, I don't think we're really having a lot of rate of new PR submissions, just less than we've had the past few months. Quantity of PRs is frankly irrelevant. I'm more interested in the quality. This is what Nickelodeon says, and frankly, I have to agree with him. I don't know why quantity of PRs is a thing. We can have 1,000 million PRs, and they can all suck, and what then? Anyone want to say something?
Not really.
Yeah, Nickelodeon pretty much echoes what I was thinking.
Oh, purposely saying we have Ed in his hand. Fantastic. The problem with the number of PRs that's currently being made is that eventually we can't really force people to make PRs for our server. We can't force people to learn what is, as far as I know, a very stupidly done language, and force them to basically learn the language from scratch and start making projects. We can encourage people, but unfortunately, we haven't had those many great ideas to begin with. The contributor role was one of them, and it hasn't done that much. ultimately it falls down on something that we've been saying for quite some time, but still kind of makes us out to be a bunch of dicks, which is if you want an idea implemented, then you're going to have to go ahead and do it yourself, because our own coders are working on their own projects, our contributors are working on their own projects, and we can't really have people throw ideas about and then expect someone else to do them. So honestly, the single best way to have more PRs going into the system is to just start making them yourself. There is really no better answer to the question than that. It sounds simple, it sounds stupid, but that's literally all there is. Anyone else want to say something?
Looking for apparently an Edetha posted a question here. I'm trying to look for it.
All right.
It's apparently related to the symbol. Oh, all right. If they'd like to repost it, I'll give them a few seconds here. And they tried to port that. All right, I'm a coder for TG Station. When I tried to port my items to Paradise, I was met with an experience so frustrating and lengthy that I gave up out of frustration on keeping my PR available for merging. What changes will be made to prevent this frustration from occurring to new coders? I think that comes down more or less to the just time it takes for code review and when people end up actually getting around to seeing it for the first time. Let's see. I think aside from that, it's mostly down to the system of we basically have a admin claim and a maintainer claim, and then both of them have to agree, or otherwise it doesn't end up getting merged, which means if there's a yes and a no, then it gets debated for a million years, or if it's a yes and a yes, then merge. No and no, it doesn't get merged unless there's enough opposition against those. That kind of thing. It's more of a system kind of thing.
I'll be very honest here. I'll be very blunt. Ultimately, we cannot force maintainers to do their jobs when they have stuff in real life to deal with. We can't chain people to walls. We can't force them to work. We're all volunteers, and until we start paying people, we can't actually expect them to do anything. Currently, the maintainers that we have are the best choices that we have for the job, and as it seems, the main problem with PRs is that code review is a lengthy process. Code review is a lengthy process that requires intervention from pretty much every single maintainer, because you can't just have one maintainer doing a code review and then the others going on their word. Everyone has to do the code review. Then we have to look at the implications for balance. Then we have to vote on it. Then if we have a yes or no vote, we then have to go ahead and debate it and see what we want to change. If we want to change something, even if it's a yes and a yes vote, then we have to go ahead and code review, and sometimes it can be something as simple as a trailing return. And then, of course, we have the simple fact that sometimes random shit in real life happens. I remember there was a spat of like 2 weeks where Nicoladin was sick with a stomach bug, and Dum Dum was somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Smoky Mountains or whatever the fuck. And several of the maintainers were either on vacation or simply just not being able to do anything. And the problem is, when the people involved in the process are not around, then yeah, the process is simply not going to move. As it stands, the process that we had before, which required full headman and maintainer support and had an excessively complicated Excel spreadsheet, was abolished and substituted with a system that merely requires a vote from a single maintainer and a vote from a single headman. However, even then, there is only so fast we can go without starting to demand people put in more hours, which is something that, frankly, none of us are going to do ever, because we're not going to be forcing people to do their jobs, because this isn't a job. This is something that we do apparently, or at least nominally, for fun. And we're not going to be forcing people to ignore their real life and their actual much more important issues than in order to just focus on specimen. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just how it's going to be. Real life comes first and specimen comes third and after everything else. This is something that we do for fun and not something that we're going to prioritize. However, the system that we have right now is pretty much the fastest system you can have, unless you just want to have PRs be decided by a single person at which point you run the problem of just speed merging anything based on what one person wants, which means that the code base would quickly become incredibly fragmented and having absolutely no direction whatsoever, even less than the direction that we have right now. The system as it is designed is meant to give both maintainers and heads of staff a bit of a word in edgewise in regards to what exactly gets merged and what exactly gets closed, while trying to expedite the process as much as possible. Also, in regards to what I see a lot of people currently saying in the chat is, I'm going to sound like an absolute dick for saying this, but unfortunately, sometimes someone has to be the dick. Some PRs are going to fall by the wayside precisely because they are so utterly irrelevant that they just get into back burner. Stuff like minor grammatical changes or stuff like a minor change to a minor thing that no one ever really cares about are going to be left beside and are going to be ignored in order to focus with much more important and much more code-based altering things. Because unfortunately, we have a limited amount of time, and this is an unfortunate result of how the process works. Unless, of course, you want us to start putting in 8 hours a day, which again is something that we're not going to actually do. This is not a job. We're not going to pay people to do it, and we absolutely do not have the resources to make people work as a job. So essentially, very simple PRs that don't actually have a lot of impact will inevitably end up being put on low priority while other stuff gets put on high priority, such as, for example, major code base altering things like Fastmos or major mapping projects or anything of the like. Anything anyone else wants to say?
No, you pretty much got it. Real life comes first.
I am getting PMs for discussion and continuation of it. It's mostly talking about ideas such as spending a few hours on smaller PRs each week or this kind of thing. It's mostly work ethic things.
In regards to what Bertellen just said, how can something that adds 2 lines of code not be... Oh, goddammit. How can something that adds 2 lines of code not be a decision that can be made in 5 minutes? It's not a decision that can't be made in 5 minutes. It's a decision that gets put into the bottom of the basket because precisely it's so simple to do. Maybe perhaps we could have a system in which we just put 1 hour off in every week to just look at the simplest, tiniest possible PRs and just, I don't know, decide on them as it seems. Unfortunately, when we have stuff like Fastmos, stuff like a minor grammar change just kind of falls by the wayside until someone remembers, oh, right, that's been there for some time. And yes, for some of the people who are currently saying this, yes, this happens. We are humans. We are people. As it stands, we are not perfect counting machines, and we make mistakes. The only way we can go ahead and fix them is to have the mistakes pointed out, and hopefully we can go ahead and try and fix them. The suggestion for a focus on smaller PRs may be something we can do in the future, but right now is not something we're thinking about. Next question.
Yeah, and for the sake of those forum questions, I'll keep the ones I'm being sent in PMs currently until after those are done, and then I'll bring those back up. So you might hear some repeats of stuff about PRs or stuff relevant to discussion.
1B, how do you plan to address the recent large amount of times between PRs being submitted and them getting merged rejected? This is a fallacy. It's not recent. It has unfortunately been a problem that's been here for quite some time. We've literally always have this. I've had this problem with PRs sort of getting very lost in the wayside, and is in fact one of the main reasons that we even have the feature freeze, like I don't know how many months ago. It's not particularly recent. It's something that's unfortunately been part of the process for quite some time, and only got worse when we had one of the maintainers leave the team. We had to find another maintainer. And again, it falls down on what we said before, which is literally the only way we can make this system faster is making people work more hours. And it's not something that we want to force people to do, because that would involve treating this like a job. At which point, well, people would burn out faster. And the last thing we want is for the maintainer team to burn out. As for the suggestion that I've seen a lot of people saying, which is finding more maintainers, we'll take that into consideration, and we will bring that into discussion later after the meeting is done. Because this is something that really alters the way that we look at the staff and isn't something that we can just do to solve a current problem or a systemic problem. Next question. What large things would you want to add to the code base, and how would you go about adding those things? Oh, good. Finally, a happy question. Nicoladin says, I can only speak personally as everyone has their own desires and wishes here. For me, my dream has always been a skill system, although I believe that's nothing more than a pipe dream. More practically, a reworking of telecoms. I'm no coder though, so the practical parts of getting that done aren't in my hands. That's what Nicoladin says. Churchy or Dumb, would you like to say something about any large features that you would like to have added?
Randomized maint, please, dear God.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. I'd love a random maintenance. Lava Land would be another great thing to get. And yeah, I don't really play on many other stations, so I don't know what other features would be big and things to port over.
We're not exactly the most, I'm not going to answer that because I'm mostly a bureaucratic person, so I'm pretty much happy as it is right now. If anything, I would like a selection of trench coats for the detective because, fuck it, I don't know. Anyway, next question. What do you see as Paradise's key strengths, and what do you see as its weak points, and how do you plan to address those weak points? Nicoladin says, the community and the ethos of Paradise I have always seen as a strong point. A friendly and welcoming community with a low tolerance for assholes. The biggest weakness, I believe, is the indulgence in salt and borderline behavior from players in ways that don't directly call for action individually but add up over time. Encouraging the administrators to be less tolerant of fuck chops is the main plan there. Anyone want to take that up before I do? Yes, no?
Hold on a sec, I couldn't hear you. My little brother came in the room.
Oh. Basically, the question is, what do you see as Paradise's key strengths, and what do you see as its weak points, and how do you plan to address those weak points?
I'd have to probably think about this way longer than we'd give time for on one question, so I'll come back to it.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. I'll always say
I have
that.
like 3 people in my house, so yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Community is always a big, strong point. I really love the community of the server. Obviously, seeing as I'm the community manager, gotta love you guys.
Only a little bit.
Ultimately, the community is also a very big strong point because we can have a place where, for the most part, people don't get harassed over ridiculous bullshit and can just come in one day and engage in friendly banter with some random person on the internet, and they don't really have to worry about anything. And if someone acts like a fuck chop, they can go be a fuck chop somewhere else. Next question. Where do you see the server in a few years' time? Oh, fantastic. Nicoladin says, 4 years ago, I never expected us to still be here in 4 years, and so much has happened in that time, I don't think I can reasonably predict what will be in another 4. My hope and plans is that in 4 years, we'll be a much faster and better server, thank you Moore's Law, with even more features and tweaks than the last 4 years have brought us. Or we'll be running a new engine if the SS13 remake curse is lifted. That is Nicoladin's response. Dundum and Churchy, would you like to pitch in?
VR Space Station 13. That's where I see us.
No, please. That would be terrible. Yeah, remake SS13 on Gmod. They're saying just mash up Dark RP meets Trouble in Terrorist Town or something. Lovely. Yes.
More seriously, though, yeah, I do see if the
maybe
remake
Unity?
ends up. Maybe Unity, yeah, that could be good. But if the remake does end up getting some footing, yeah, it would be great for us to move on to a better thing than Beyond, as lovely as it is.
Beyond is our daddy and our mommy, and will always be our creator.
And our archaic, crazy uncle. Just kind of there.
Pardon me? I had my room invaded again. Next question. All right. What can be done to increase the level of roleplay experience presented to the community? And Nicolad in response, because roleplay is, in the end, how two players choose to interact between each other, there's only so much we as administrators can do. The biggest factor is the players themselves and the choices made there. While the admins can nurture and encourage this, the best roleplay to me is organic and player-driven. Admins affecting it too much takes away from player control and choice, which are usually important factors in this. It's also an incredibly subjective thing, and increasing it for one may decrease it for another. I think the most you can do is give more options and choices for players to express themselves and their characters' choices. That's Nicolada's response. Churchy and Dum Dum, would you like to say something?
See, again, he keeps nailing things on the head of what I'd really like to talk about, but
nothing to add
then? Yeah, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. It's hard to nail down one thing that we as admins are able to do to improve it, but yeah, it's a community thing. We've all got to work together to improve what we want to.
One of the biggest things is definitely, in terms of complaints on roleplay specifically, one of the most influential things seems to be that of like power gaming, or generally just the kind of play to win meta mentality kind of thing. So basically, oh look, I have this basically formula for winning a round, more or less. It's kind of like, okay, so if I'm an Antag and I am playing X role, then I can do X and it will accomplish Y, and therefore I get green text. It doesn't matter if anyone is trying to talk to me or anything in that style. Then if there's a recurring kind of style that keeps getting them the same results, then just using that repeatedly is kind of just like to see meta mixed up a bit more.
Next question. Wait, oh shit, there goes my Word document. There we go. What would you like to see as an improvement within the next 6 months? Nicolodon says, people being kinder to one another.
What a lovely answer.
Yeah, pretty much. Personally, there isn't a lot I would like to see added to the code base in particular, but mostly because I'm pretty fine with how it is right now. However, if the question is what would you like to see as an improvement in overall general, honestly, I would just like to have no drama llamas for the next 6 months. I know that's a pipe dream. I know that's never going to happen, but my personal dream is we can go half a year without any sort of major drama llama. Oh, fantastic. Dumb apparently is unable to talk right now. Also, no purpose. I'm not banning you for 6 months. I love you. Didn't you know that? We'll ERP later, okay, baby? Next. All right, next question. If you could implement any feature from any code base, what would it be and why? Nicolodon says LifeWeb-esque skills. I would have to say, Churchy, I think it's TG that has like admin ticket system?
I believe so. I know Colonial Marines, back when I was a mod there a long, long time ago, also had the ticket-like system. But yeah, that's a really useful feature that would be lovely to have.
Yeah, I would love for ticket system because oftentimes you all end up with 3 admins responding to something at once, or an administrator will be handling something and then another administrator will start butting in because it didn't see the original responses, because it kind of just blends in with a text chat, and then it gets really awkward, and then we have to handle it, and then it's really just weird. So yeah, a ticket system would be something that I would absolutely love to see. A skill system would be great, but unfortunately I think it would be such a great overhaul that we would possibly need to actually hire a coder to do it for us. And it's not something that we can feasibly implement in any kind of way anytime soon. Dum Dum, would you like to say something, or are you still being
on the skill system sort of thing? No. Instead, there's a vacuum going, but
no. If you could implement any feature from any code base, what would it be and why?
Again, the LifeWeb skills system, just in general, because I'm a nerd who ended up playing 2007 Scape for a good few months over the summer, and just skill systems are lovely. I get to see more bars faster.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that. The skill system sounds really good, but a lot of LifeWeb's features would be great. Specifically, their combat system. I really loved it when the brief time that I played there. Kind of stopped after a while, but the combat system was the main draw for me. And close combat with the swords and stuff. I think it'd be really cool.
All right, next question. Do you have any ideas or suggestions on how to increase community involvement? That's a bit of a vague. What do you mean by community? Actually, wait a second. San is the one who made that question on the forum, so I'm going to unmute him. Hold on. Wait, where is he? Ah, here you go. San.
No, we mean, by the way, hold on. I was responding to something in the chat instead. My bad.
Oh, whatever. Whatever is quicker. Basically, what exactly do you mean by community involvement?
So by community involvement, what I mean is what can we do more to bring more engagement in with the players? I don't necessarily mean that is it about making them make more PRs, is it about saying, oh, this is what we can do, but what can we do in terms of, say, would it be an event that we hold like every so often where we publish it and say, you know what, we are holding an event here on this next Friday, and it's going to be extended game round, but it's going to be mainly roleplay based. Or it could even be something where I say, you know what, we'll do a community or community contribution where we go out and do something for a charity, or we do go in and say, you know what, let's just try to draw something and see what actually happens. Something where we say it's more about actually bringing the community together rather than just having it all, kind of just split out and everyone does whatever they want, which is also fine, but at least give people the opportunity to come together and actually have fun aside from just Space Station 13.
So like the older Guild War, I think there was a run of Guild Wars 2 with some community members a long while back, I think about a year. We also used to have, back when the staff Skype group existed, we actually had, I think, a dozen people or dozen and a half people ended up on a Starbound server of sorts. It was like Dean the Liz, or however you say his name, and a few other people who were dicking around on that. And then further on, we had a Terraria game and that kind of thing. So I'd actually love to see more of that kind of stuff. Just somebody find an MMO and have swarms of Greytide go in there.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we have a community manager right now, so not only could we work to have even more community meetings that aren't half a year apart, but we could start, I don't know, random games such as Tabletop Simulator, and then we record them and put them up for everyone to do, or we just organize one day where everyone hops onto a specific game or something. That is something
against humanity.
Or that. That'd be something that would be very cool to do, actually, and that is something that I believe I'm going to off-source to Churchy, because that's what a leader is being about. It's about extreme delegation. Ain't that right?
After the meeting, we can do Cards Against Humanity, guys.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. All right.
We'll do an at here.
Everyone settles down. Everyone settle down. Next question. For atmospheric system, do you prefer Linda, Zas, or Fastmos? Nicoladen says somewhere between Linda and Fastmos. Personally, I say Fastmos. Dumb, Churchy?
In terms of Linda versus Fastmos, I like the faster decompression from Fastmos. I don't like the slamming because you can't get up, and you also can't get back into the station, and a little bit difficult. It reminds me of old Zas, which is, I guess, it was more fun, but it was also kind of BS how you could repeatedly slam into the same window, not have any chance to recover, and then just die due to a pressure difference between two rooms.
Yeah, if in a perfect world, I'd love to have something like in between Zas and Fastmos, but that's going to be something that would be very hard. But overall, I think Fastmos would be more what I'd like.
An acceptable compromise, basically?
Yeah, pretty much.
This is rather complicated because Atmospheric's code is nightmarishly complex and at times bordering on the level of black speech in terms of how it can be understood. It's a very complex system, it's a very complicated system, and it's one that at some points our maintainers still don't really know exactly how it works. It kind of works because it's always worked, and fuck it, it doesn't have any errors, so let's just go around. So in the perfect world, like Churchy said, it'd be something in between ZAS and Fastmos, because it would be a system in which atmospherics could once again be deadly, and of course atmospherics technicians can actually be relevant once again. But we'll settle for trying to make Fastmos work, and then we'll worry about anything else. Next question is, as a game admin, what is the number one thing you believe players should be aware of? Nicoladin says, every character out there has a human being behind the screen with the same goal as you. Having fun playing a computer game, be excellent to each other. That's Nicoladin's response, and I'm going to have to echo it. This is something that I think a lot of people tend to overlook, which is when you start trying to lash at the person behind the screen because of something that happened on the screen, you're kind of being a cunt, and you need to step back and reevaluate your priorities as it stands. Churchy or Dumb, would you like to
Yeah,
say
no,
something?
it's just another echo, basically. Just don't be an asshole.
In the
More or
immortal
less.
words of Harry Voodoo Shaman, don't be a fuck.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what I was preparing to say. Yeah, just there's people behind those monitors.
All right. Next question is, when will the final decision on Fastmos or the fuck? Alphmospherics. This is no. It's literally Alphmospheric. Okay. When will the final decision on Fastmos be made, constituting a permanent swap to the system? Nicoladin says there will never be a final decision. Atmospheric code is something that will be constantly tweaking, likely forever. Currently, the main issue is tweaking stunts on Space Wind and object throwing, as we pointed out before. I like to add on what Nicoladin said. It's not that we're going to be constantly in limbo. We're obviously going to switch from one major framework system to another, but Atmospheric's code is probably something that will never ever be there permanently without any changes. Very few things are. So when will there be a final decision on Fastmos? Probably soon, TM, but we'll most likely be tweaking it for some time to come, even after the switch is made, when it's made, whenever it's made. It's always going to need tweaking, it's always going to need some fixing.
Pretty much used the word I was going to use. Soon, TM.
More or less.
All right, next question. When will the final decision be made on Metastation's station name? Oh Jesus. Nicoladin says, either when we find a name that is so perfect we love it, or otherwise a few minutes before it's added as an official map replacement station. No decision like that is ever really final. I'm going to echo what Nicoladin says because I have zero clue what to call it.
It's pretty much how it works every time, though we did have a player poll, I think a little while back, by purpose, that ended up getting some pretty good names out there. It ended up in Kerberos, Cerberon, and Cerebon, Bron, one of those, and a terrible one, Eden. All right.
You.
Oh. See, why would you rag on that? It's Kerberos, not
Right.
Cerberus, but
yeah, it's probably gonna be it's probably gonna be a last minute decision. Like, we're gonna have to put it up as an official replacement, and then someone will have a really weird dumbass name, and then we'll just slap it on, and we'll learn to live with it. I mean, for God's sakes, NSS Siberiad comes from a random Polish novel for whatever reason.
NSS Eurist. Perfect.
Yeah, no. Next question. When can we expect any feedback on Delta Station, which is currently on GitHub from maintainer or headman? Nicoladin says, likely after we're done assessing meta, it's not really a priority. That's pretty much it. Next question is, And will the final decision be made on Delta station name? See Meta Station. Next question is, what are the plans for map rotations and when will likely see them set up? Player vote at round end based on population size, map changes every few days, weighted random, true random. There are currently no real plans set up, though personally something that I would like to do would be like X times a week, just automatically swap over to another station so we can see how that works. It's probably a system that I'll try to put up discussion, and if it works, we'll most likely be seeing a swap over to Metastation far more frequently than we used to before. Honestly, and this is something that I can echo from what Tiger Cat said before, the original plan for Metastation so long ago was to basically just have it be on an automatic rotation, which sort of fell by the wayside because it was more or less a maintainability nightmare. But now that it's in much better shape, we'll see if we can start putting it up on automated changes. That's pretty much it.
There are 2 more questions on the forums, though, such as...
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, so FPK here. Head of security is a highly stressful role. The source of this stress is the head of security's split duties between managing security from the brig and participating in the field with their superior gear and access. People have suggested for a while that the role may be split into 2 different roles, one to manage security, one with superior gear. The manager would retain most of the head of security's duties, mainly being the leader of security, but would only be issued slightly better gear and would lack additional access across the station. The combat version would be given the current head of security's gear and would be tasked with working as a station's high-danger security officer, a la Special Forces. Thoughts?
The head of security is not meant to be a frontline fighter. The head of security, much like pretty much every other head of staff on the station, is supposed to be equal parts worker and administrator. If you're playing head of security as the person who's first on the field in front of everyone else, maybe you should probably leave your security officers, aka the fresh meat, go ahead and be your shields for you. The head of security is stressful. Yes, it really is. But we currently have no plans to split it up into 2 different roles when, frankly, one can technically do the job perfectly well, depending on, of course, the chaos level. I'm not going to say that it's not chaotic. I have, in fact, been a head of security in many situations which have almost had me pull my hair out in frustration. But I don't think adding a special forces unit or even a special forces job, period, would in any way be a good idea, because that basically would just be security officer plus with super better gear that would have just an excuse to go off hunting antags and fulfilling their Movalad's dreams.
There is one more, just a sec, answering something.
As an aside to that, as a head of security, you are able to delegate some of the management work to the warden. That's something that I would do a lot when I used to play head of security more often. And, you know, the warden can do that kind of stuff. It's really helpful to have that extra person to delegate extra work to.
Yeah, the warden is really meant to be the custodian of the brig, not just the babysitter for the prisoners. And you can basically split your administrative burden half and half with the warden, assuming the warden is halfway decent. So you really shouldn't try and literally centralize every possible responsibility with you, because that's just a great way of stressing yourself out needlessly. You have a team, use it. Coordinate that team and use that team in order to remove some of the stress from you, basically.
That, and if you need to slow anything down for a bit so you can take a breather, then the law department tends to be there to help out. I think that's about it in terms of responses to this one. Do you want me to move on to the next question?
Yeah, sure.
Right. This one comes from Varg. Taking into consideration that Unity Station might be a thing in the near future, is the staff already thinking about dropping beyond and moving ahead? And did the staff get any talk with the team doing this, and are there any plans about helping them?
I'll be very honest with you. If it works, it'll work, but I'm not going to hold my breath and hope that it does. Every single possible fucking SS13 remake literally anywhere else has failed massively.
3 years away, oh god.
So excuse me for not wanting to even start about thinking about it when I see it, basically.
Let's see, and then I think
The last forum
final bit. Last forum question is from Spaceman Spark here. How specific should our naming rule standards be? This is a bit of a toughie here. So,
oh boy.
Yeah.
That's
So this one
boy.
is hotly debated because the staff is kind of super split on it in terms of basically leaning far to one side and leaning far to the other. So I'll say my piece on it, I guess. Just be aware that this is incredibly individual opinions. Definitely not most of the staff and definitely not all of them. Yes, I see the hammer and such. The question was, how specific should our naming rules be, or naming rule standards be? So, yeah, that question, Free, is... yeah.
This is one of those questions that you cannot answer in literally any way without pissing off at least half of your audience.
Fail.
I mean, the diplomatic solution here would be we will take it into consideration and then we'll probably come up with the final solution for it sometime soon.
Please, dear God. The amount of discussion that happened over, I think, was it a 4-month? No, it was like over a 4-month period. Was kind of insane on it. It just, we're going to have to discuss it.
Yeah, we're going to have
the staff for probably a few months when it gets brought up.
Yeah, this is something that I'm just going to be very honest with everyone listening here. Let's just put a rain check on it and move on to something that won't give literally everyone headaches.
Right then. So
Please.
That was the last of the forum questions. So now
there
I
wasn't.
move on
There's
to
another one.
There is?
Yeah, from FPK. You missed it.
No, FPK was the head of security one.
He's got one that goes out to Tully.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, it's a specific one.
The question is, go ahead.
Right, this goes out to Tully. Should access to Magistrate be available through a whitelist application? I know that the staff is against these whitelists, but Magistrate fulfills an important role in security and yet infrequently shows up to do it. Increasing the pool of available magistrates by allowing known competent security players to request access to it would help make the role more common on station.
Ultimately, we don't want to force people to play Magistrate, and I'll be very honest with you here, the Magistrate is not really required. Apart from really, really, really fringe case scenarios that maybe will possibly require an external third-party arbitrator, the Magistrate isn't really that needed. Security has literally everything they need in their possession to properly sentence people, and they don't exactly need a magistrate most of the time when, well, you have space law. And frankly, if people want to play magistrate, they can. But at the end of the day, if you're going to go with the whole known competent security players, if you've been playing enough that you're known as a competent security player, enough that you can possibly be considered for a whitelist, odds are you're also going to have the 45 comma required to pay for the magistrate. And if people don't want to pay for it, then we're not going to really, make them pay for it. I mean, Magistrate often borders between incredibly dull because security is kind of on the money and just immensely frustrating because security just doesn't listen to you at all. And if people want to be the judge, then people want to be the judge. And frankly, I don't really think a whitelist is required for that. If people want to play Magistrate, they will. And if they decide to use it as a means of lording over and being a shittard, then the fuck shop can go be a fuck shop somewhere else. As it stands, however, I'm a very big proponent that security has every resource that it requires at their disposal, with or without a magistrate, to properly sentence people.
Right then, let's see. So scrolling through the responses I've gotten, I think it's time for community questions, unless you see anything else on the forums.
There's nothing else in the forum, so we can go ahead and start with the community questions.
Right, if we did miss anything, then slap me. If you have a question still, or you have something to discuss, and we haven't covered it already, I'm the mailbox. I'm the living, breathing mailbox, so just send me a DM over Discord, and we'll read it out in the order they come in. So, and I'll leave these anonymous, as nobody's actually said they want to be identified or anything. So, community question.
Wait, hold on.
What are the future plans of the replacement?
Just so basically, any administrator that wants to speak from this point forward or would like to have an opinion given on any question, please contact myself or Dum Dum so we can give you permission to speak on the voice channel for any specific question, basically.
We can unmute ourselves. Okay.
Oh. But you can?
Yes, that's intentional.
Oh. All right, then. Moving on.
Right. This one, community question. What are the future plans of the replacement of security Borgs into Peacemaker Borg thingies? I believe we've covered this, actually. We didn't end up wanting to replace Sec Borgs if they end up getting merged. They're most likely going to be an alternative that's available at pretty much all times.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not Peacemaker, but Peacekeeper Borgs are more the AoE kind of stun thing. Whereas Sec Borgs are a lot more brute force in sprinting in, stunning things, handcuffing, more physical stuff.
Yeah, so if they get merged, it's as an alternative to the Sec Borg, not as a replacement in any way.
Right.
Next question.
Anything else on that one?
No, we covered that before.
Right. Question, is there going to be some kind of change in a relationship between security and Greytide? Right now it's not very good because both sides are just kind of annoying each other.
Oh boy.
I'll be right back.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course. He bails at this moment. God damn it.
Right.
The relationship between security and Greytide is as old as SS-13 itself, or at least as old as the existence of security and civilians, and they've literally always gotten on one another's nerves. It's one of the memes of the whole fucking game. It's one of the reasons why artwork is generated. It's one of the crucial aspects of what SS-13 is. More or less every single server has this antagonistic relationship between security and the Greytide. In fact, if anything, all we can do is ask you to help more. And I know this is something that I keep saying every single fucking time we have any sort of discussion, but we have rules that are specifically tailored to curtail excessive Greytide behavior. They are, I believe, in Rule 2? Maybe? Rule 2. And of course, the ever-perennial Rule 0, don't be a cunt. If anything, if you see someone acting like a literal Greytide, I would encourage you to help and provide evidence that they are in fact acting like Greytide, so we can go ahead and note it down and talk to the person, and if necessary, kick them or ban them from the server at all.
Anyone else on that?
Nah.
Right. So here's another question. What are you doing to help reduce the inconsistency between different admins? For example, a recent incident involving a certain admin believing that giving people all access during a nuke ops round was being against the rules in an extreme case. How are you planning to standardize what we can expect from the staff team in future with regards to what is and is not allowed?
I tried standardizing things once. It wasn't pretty.
I've returned.
It's not easy.
ultimately, the problem is that we are not a cubicle farm. We cannot force people to act in the exact same way, in the exact same manner, in the exact same circumstances. Every single administrator will always have their specific adminning style. And personally, trying to reduce the variation has been something that I've tried to do, which is why we even have the whole ban guidelines and the antagonist token guidelines. But ultimately, it will always be down to every administrator to decide how best to apply the server rules. This is why we even have administrator complaints, which is if you believe an administrator is wrong or overstepping their bounds, you can explain your case and you can say why you think this is true, and then of course we will look into it. In regards to this specific incident, we discussed this with the administrator in what's the expression? In question, thank you. We discussed this with the administrator in question, and they have agreed that that was not the correct course of action, and I believe they have since issued an apology over how they acted. This is the system working. Every administrator will have their own style, and if they overstep their bounds in doing so, then that's where the admin complaints are there for. That's where the checks and balances are there for.
Can I add in one little point? It should probably be mentioned that we have very lengthy discussions on the admin Discord over things like this, because it seems like people get enjoyment out of discussing this in the staff team. So we do discuss it amongst each other. And until we usually reach a general consensus on what should be done. So it's not just like a few people making decisions, it's like everyone participating.
Yeah, and even then, usually bans are brought up in like ASA or over the staff chat to say, hey, this was a bit controversial. Can we all talk about this for a good, like, 10, 15 minutes? And sometimes discussion will actually go on for, I've seen one go on for a good 45 minutes about whether or not a ban was justified and how it works out and basically what to do in different situations. It's more or less we encourage trial admins to keep sending in different bans or situations they're handling to just get a good idea of what's going on.
And not just trial admins, but the game admins, senior admins, even head administrators. Like, no one is immune to it. Everyone has, at some point or another, went on Discord and put down hashtag @here, something happened, X happened with Y against Z, opinions, please.
It's only been 10 minutes, to be honest. It's more like a few hours. Let's be real here. Some of the chats, hey, like, I'll start a workout session, and every now and then in between sets, I'll be checking my phone. I'll still see people discussing some issue. It's
we've had
yeah, we can go on back and forth for fucking days about things. Like your fucking naming rule.
Yeah. Oh, don't even. That's been going on.
Backtrack. Okay.
Continue.
We said question. To bail on that.
Next question.
Oh, I didn't see that.
For large PRs, if design documents are provided beforehand, rather than just having a PR or PR out of the blue, would that assist in things being approved more quickly?
That depends on whether or not the code's proper, and if the admins agree, the headmins agree with the way it's implemented. Because you can have a fantastic PR that has absolutely nothing wrong with the code, and there's still a non-zero chance that the headmins and maintainers will go, yeah, but we don't want this like that, because ultimately that's a choice we have to make in regards to server direction and in regards to things that get coded in. But however, if you do present a design document on what you want to do, then we could very well provide feedback before you make the PR, so you can make adjustments before you make the PR, and therefore increase the odds that you have less work actually making the PR itself. Because keep in mind that there's a lot of stuff on the Git that seems like it's basically dead, when in fact it's a lot of back and forth between the PR creator and the maintainers, usually over very nitty-gritty things.
And then another question here. What is the staff's general opinion on the VR PR in the works that appears to be getting a little bit of attention? For me personally, dear God, it's awesome.
It's fucking awesome. And I know that Warrior has a lot of fucking plans for it.
Oh, yeah.
They've even been talking to me about it. Yeah, the virtual reality shit affected.
It'd be awesome. It would be awesome.
Very awesome. I'd love to see it.
It has fucking endless potential, honestly.
it does have really, really good potentials or potential overall, and it's something I think could add a new depth to the game, and it's definitely something I'd love to see.
I believe whoever's working on the PR, I think it's Warrior 4356 or something, ended up actually coming to me asking about possibly an alternative to exile or execution, like basically a virtual exile thingy, like a little room off the side of execution or something like that.
Yeah, they brought that up with me too.
Yeah, it's actually really neat.
Considering
Yeah.
the limited options we have for dealing with, enemies of the corporations and stuff like that, that'd
That
be
could be-
a good thing. Yeah.
They said,
the game forever.
I think their idea was to make a special room and then put fucking VR glasses that only work in that room, and you can't take those glasses off. Well, I suggested a sleeper, but they said that they were too lazy for that. Just like most of us, but.
So here's another thing. Could you explain how the staff is internally organized? So let's see. Currently, the staff is internally organized in a manner of kind of like a hierarchical system. We're currently working on kind of pancaking the system as it is right now, but basically it goes, you go from trial admin to game admin to senior senate, well, not senior senate, staff senate or council or whatever it was now, because we've changed the names a few times. And then you go to head admin. And then there's the coder bit. And the host. And currently that's how it works out. We're planning on kind of making a bit more procedure and actually cementing these roles. That, oh, hold on, just got another question. We're kind of planning to cement these roles a bit further with procedure, and more or less it's a pet project of Tully's, who's been going around asking the staff council and I think the staff at large with several drafts to it. So there's a lot of restructure going around, and it's actually something that's probably going to change pretty often. Right. Next question here. Let's see. Right. What about a unified sprite art style and direction? And more or less, it's just because this person has been seeing a lot of different varied color palettes and, I guess, amounts of detail put into sprites. I'm going to go out on a limb and say sprites are kind of a lot more individual, really. You have a bunch of different people who can sprite or want to sprite, and depending on whether or not they do or don't, they just decide they'll throw something up and submit it, and if it looks neat, then it tends to get in. I don't think we end up having an actual unified art style for the server. It's more or less just a free-form kind of hop-in. I also asked to be identified as a, where is it? Postman Pat. Perfect.
Honestly, I think that the sprites being different is kind of what makes part of the game pretty neat.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Charm. Yeah,
it's part of its charm. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to unify a whole bunch of different artists into one style, because we have so many different contributors for different sprites and stuff. It'd be a nightmare to try and get everybody to work in one specific style for it.
All right, is that it on that one? All right. Someone asks, I have played 100 games on this station, not been an Antag once. Is this bugged? No, Antag is entirely RNG based. You could get every single round for 100 rounds, or you could get it no rounds for 1,000,000. It's, I know there are apparently subtle factors that do change the chance maybe a little bit, like probably point-something%, but I'm more or less certain that it's entirely RNG based. So, you know, pray a little bit, roll a few d20s, and hopefully you'll be fine. Let's see here. Anyone have anything on that, by the way?
Traders? No, not really.
That's
If you get it, it's a fucking big responsibility. So if you keep getting it over and over, maybe you should consider what you're doing with your time as an Antag. You
Let's
are
see.
making the round what it is. Make it good. That's all I've got.
If you win Antag a lot, just play the lottery, and then send me half the money you win.
All right. So another question here. Can you clarify SOP a little more? Because sometimes it feels like it's not clear enough on certain jobs, especially security and science. SOP is more of an IC thing. So unless you're actively breaking an out-of-character rule, it's something that you have to deal with in character. It's basically some legal mumbo-jumbo that gives the law department, so internal affairs agents and magistrates, little leeway to screw around and say, okay, you aren't following this procedure, and therefore that's a demotion if they want to play a corporate hard ass, as some of them do. Gets to be a little bit interesting dealing with them. So it's more for the roleplay than it is for the actual, like, out of character, do this, don't do this, unless it says, please don't light up plasma fires for no apparent reason, or build giant stompy death mechs and run around in them.
Yeah,
Anything else on that one?
I see a lot of people trying to use it as a weapon of sorts, and I know this has come up a lot. Like I said, it's a fucking IC method. So when you help about blah blah blah, put me in for 1 more minute than he was supposed to. You get what I'm saying? I had a better thought, but I lost it. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, it happens with voice. Sorry.
Yeah, same.
We can come back if it ends up coming back.
Yeah.
Hello?
Had a whole
Let's see.
spiel.
Not sure if it's already been discussed, but are there any plans on giving the NT rep more options, power, or other changes which makes them more relevant, other than being an advisor to command who gives advice which is not being obligated or followed? Oh, which is not obligated to be followed. Also, will anything be done to encourage CC response to faxes from when NT rep sends? So fax responses are entirely down to Game Admin Plus, which is more or less basically an individual decision of, oh, I can write up a proper corporate response to this, or
No.
not quite sure. It's not really something, it's not a standardized process, and I don't think anything's in the works yet, but it's a good suggestion.
No.
Nothing
No.
else?
If
I'm
they get
kidding.
more power, it needs to be really carefully thought out.
Yeah. It's basically
Because,
something we're probably... Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just saying there's a lot of jobs that can do exactly what the fuck people are trying to make them do. If you want them to have more power, come up with something that's original and means something. That's all I've got.
Another question here. When will there be new gateways? So gateways kind of involve a lot more mapping, and really areas are a little bit more difficult to work with. Then again, I'm not too familiar with code. So if any admin here is more familiar with code, then please jump in, because I'm not quite sure. I just don't think there are any plans for them, but people can submit them as they will. Nothing?
No, not really.
New gateways?
I mean, I threw a suggestion on the forum for one, but that's not really relevant.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
potential for adding new gateways was the question. Or
Yeah.
when will there be? So I guess the answer is it's kind of a non-committal. We don't really have anything down.
If you can make something, then that'd be great, but other than that,
Yeah.
not
It
really.
would be nice. It would just be nice, but we can't really cement, say yes, no, maybe, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, Fox just put a response in the chat there. It's a matter of there being good gateway missions submitted. They require a lot of effort and design emphasis to be well done, and thus far, no one except Kiet has attempted to do that.
Right then, here.
Good old
What is
Kit.
What is the position about soft self-antagging? Like the times a chemist stun prods or cable cuffs someone for a stupid reason and security has to deal with a guy who's not even an antag, but because he didn't hurt anyone and is not breaking any rules, pretty much the position about people who create weapons without a good reason. There's a difference between creating weapons and using a stun prod and poking people around. I guess it really depends on the situation, how much is going on, basically how big of a deal is caused by it. So, for example, is security just running in, stunning the guy and dragging him out? Or is it a station-wide manhunt and is he chasing people around and robusting sec officers left and right and that kind of thing? So it's more of a scale issue than it is anything else. Or so I'd think.
If anything, it's just grade tiding. Like, it's honestly just grade tiding until they like murder or put someone in crit. Again, we have plenty of rules to go over it, so it's fine.
Though encouraging against grade tiding is obviously a goal.
I mean, the encouragement against grade tiding, well, direct IC consequences is the brig.
Be nice to your coworkers, kids.
Please.
Or you'll get your shit beat up.
They'll just have a giant hammer fall down.
Yes. Rocks, hammers fall, everyone dies.
So, yeah,
and next,
that's a good meme.
Yeah, next up here. Why do you all use karma as a time delay for incompetency rather than whitelisting? Whitelisting is a much better and more controlled system, while karma simply promotes memes and eventually allows for shitters to gain access to what would be semi-fun roles. Generally feel that karma for races is fine, but roles, it just kind of lets memers get into roles that can actually hurt the round. Right. So, again, whitelists are a little more difficult to manage just because it's, okay, we need to constantly monitor who is doing what good thing and are they doing it well enough that other people actually enjoy them doing it. Karma is supposed to be given to people who you actually enjoy playing with, so kind of people who made rounds memorable or just had everyone have a good time, not just handing it out to people who are, oh, he said one funny thing one time, let's chuck it his way, or he was incompetent, let's throw it at him as, like, I don't know, just free karma point. I just don't see whitelisting replacing karma at any point, just because whitelists are a little harder to deal with.
Not to mention we have to figure out who the fuck is going to handle all those whitelists. You're going to have people handling certain roles because they're going to be really good at those roles. Who's fucking good at those roles? Well, we have to go over the entire fucking staff team.
You're overthinking it. No,
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, keep the fucking karma system.
It's not overly hard.
The karma system was one of the main draws that drew me to the server when it was first really getting its upstart. And I still think it's an excellent system.
Yeah, and Fox made a very good point in chat here. So not every job is necessarily whitelist material either. Having a whitelist for something like mechanic or Barbara would be outrageously ridiculous. Others are just mechanically similar to their sister job, that the whitelist doesn't really remain any relevance to the security pilot. So it's a very good point.
And I do have to thank you guys for taking what Fox is saying in the chat and other admins, because currently I'm looking at PMs and such to see what order they were sent in and try to get everyone's down, which there are a few longer discussion ones that I've been saving to the end of this. So what are thoughts about antags having a mission to kill X and steal Y? Then they just go off on a random murder bone with 10 plus seemingly unrelated kills, causing so much heat that they end up failing their mission. Antags are generally informed that they really should be sticking as close as possible to their objectives, though they can still try to keep it interesting. More or less the rule is don't randomly murder bone people, though you can kill people in self-defense as well. Traitor is kind of a role where if you kill someone and you get caught killing someone, then people are going to be coming after you and you'll die if you get caught, so only reasonable thing to do is shoot back.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add to that is, like Jeannie said, don't fucking bait people to kill you. try to hide. Do something, because running around in the public hallway going, "Oh, look at me! I'm here! Come get me!" No, that's bad.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you'll
That's
just get an
mean.
ERT called on you if you're a moron like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, but then oftentimes they're loaded up on fucking meme cams and like blast through the
You
ERT.
know, meme cams are overrated. They're not that bad.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a topic
remember-
for another time.
I can't remember the
Yeah.
last time I got killed by a meme
That's a
cam.
topic for another time.
That'd be a long discussion.
Oh yes.
All right.
Right.
man.
Probably
Question.
have our own community meeting on meme cams.
Question here. Is karma recorded in some kind of log, like the total amount of karma a person has earned over their time, spent and not? Yes. Yes, it is. We have one for every single person. So if you have a C key and you gained a karma point ever, then we have it. Let's see. Also, Fox would like to state that he's currently open for questions as well. If you have anything like code related or something along those lines, you really should shoot it towards him because he can answer it as best he can in the chat. And then, will we ever do anything about Diona? They're inefficient for a race due to their speed, and while unique, aren't worth it in the end.
They
I'd
are.
say Diona are really good at
Tanking
endurance.
hits.
Just in general, durability is something they're great at. Aside from the plant begone, then really they're walking friggin' tanks.
They are like pretty well balanced. You know what's not? Kitten. Oh, that's a
Yeah, bug people there are little underplayed,
Just a little.
unfortunately.
just a little.
Yeah, Kedon needs something.
They need to be able to wear glasses.
But I think for the benefits Diona have, I think that their downsides are kind of pretty well balanced out. Being able to tank a lot of stuff, regen in the light, tend to be good balances for just being a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot slower. And generally just, I guess, being able to die in the dark, though usually you have a PDA light or something along those lines. So usually you run into it during Shadowling or Xeno. It doesn't happen often. And by the looks, all right, so I've got some little bit of discussion here if nobody else has anything to say on that. No?
Good.
Nope.
Right. Someone did want to give a shout out to, earlier we were talking about initiatives to kind of promote roleplay in the community. Someone wanted to talk about something, a little bit of a community effort called the Role Playing Guild, that kind of thing. It's a little community thing that appears to be
Hi.
trying to foster a little bit more of a passive encouragement of roleplay by generally just other players planning little things and just talking about little interactions or ways they could make their character more engaging, a little bit better. Gundos wanted to shoot that out there. So if you have any questions, you probably want to ask them because they run the thing.
It is something I'd like to actually also elaborate a bit on because it's an absolute excellent opportunity for people that don't necessarily feel comfortable about actually starting to roleplay because they feel too bound to the actual game mechanics or to the round type that they're playing. It's an excellent opportunity to just reach out and say, hey, can I get some feedback on this? Or, you know what, I have this kind of idea about what I can do for some roleplay or character or something I can roll with. And if you just put it out there or say, oh, can somebody perhaps, take the time to actually sit down and teach me how to roleplay properly, what's appropriate, what's not, at what times should I be ignoring a roleplay over gameplay, for example, if it's a game type that encourages you to win, for example, where it's a nuclear operatives, for example. But it's all about finding that right balance and making sure that you feel comfortable about roleplaying and how to roleplay and do it properly.
Sacrificial daggers have not been discussed, by the way, in terms of
boy.
what people are asking. Sac daggers are, yeah, there's a PR to fix their massive damage.
It's literally
Okay.
insta-kill. It's the funniest
Yeah.
thing I have It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It's-
It hasn't been used on me, but
It's-
oh my
Look, the
god.
man
Really-
explodes.
It's really
Pretty
broken.
sure.
Like
He just
There was
fucking
an extra zero
falls over.
somewhere.
That's it.
almost.
They're like
There's
5
only
win.
the only race I think that can't die from it. I don't know because they don't have blood, but literally takes all
Yeah.
your blood. I think slimes. I'm not. Oh, it's one of
Slimes,
those
IP,
other
slimes and IPCs can survive it, I think. I'm not even sure
well,
about slimes.
Essentially, you can just take the starting rune that you start as cultist, make 3 building
No,
thingies,
apparently
and then you
slimes
can.
can't.
And then you can just mass spam cult daggers every like few minutes, and then you can just have a duffel bag of them. And you can literally just run around with a duffel bag of daggers, switching them out. It's really broken. I don't know why it's not fixed yet. Because you can just keep switching them out because the dagger fucking recharges every like 3 minutes or something. So
And
glad
by
they're
the
not
looks,
being abused.
IPC is the only race that can actually survive because slimes do have blood. They take massive
Glorious.
toxin damage without it. Neat.
Glory to Synthetica, motherfuckers.
Yeah, as you get your face bashed in by said dagger.
Or an EMP rune.
Or literally anything. Another question here. Have the facts... Oh, my bad. Have the execution rules requiring what crimes can be executable and which methods are acceptable in Fact CC first become too restrictive? Not all players know they can request an execution as a perma-prisoner. And do we need to fax if someone voluntarily requests execution as a perma-prisoner? Takes time to fax, and some people just want to be bored. Currently, there's actually a vote up in the staff council chat about faxes and the fax execution rules that's been up for a bit. Chances are it's going to filter down to yet more discussion because it seems to be a bit more of a controversial topic, especially among some of the more sec-oriented admins. So I think they might have gotten a little bit too restrictive at some point, mostly because there are some cases where it's, okay, this guy just ran about and killed like half the sec team, and now that we've gotten him in custody because he gave himself up finally for the protection of that, now we have to go through the process of going through and confirming it with Central Command and that kind of thing. So in a way, yeah. Probably. Also, in terms of the voluntary execution, I'm not sure on that. By how the rule works right now, yes, you would, but probably shouldn't have to. And anyone can say anything on that, because that's currently the only question in, aside from I'm reading up on the community meeting chat right now.
I got a question here. Who do you think's going to win? Conor McGregor or Mayweather?
Oh, shut the
What?
fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I've heard fucking boxing shit all day. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? Nobody. We're both gonna knock each other out at the same time.
Totally went out for dinner, banana. So let's see. Question: would augmenting my whole body prevent me from being killed by a sack dagger?
No.
Oh, hold on. Alf needs an unmute real quick.
Nah, fuck
There
Alf.
we are. He should be able to unmute himself now. There we go. Right. So Alf should be able to speak. And then, yeah, augmenting your whole body to prevent being killed by a sack. I don't think so. Because I don't think augmenting removes the necessity of blood. Just
You still
depends.
have blood.
Yeah. Alf, if you're talking, we don't hear it. Maybe your mic's not down.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hi, Alf.
Cool. Hey, yeah. So execution thing. Yeah, it's weird. It's difficult, but at the same time, sort of. I was the one who initially put forward the execution rule change, and it sort of the impetus of that was extended, where security had executed a Vox for being a changeling, and then later claimed that they wanted to be executed, which was kind of not a thing that should have occurred.
I think the problem was the fact that if you had 2 syndicate items, you're like an EOC, and EOCs could be executed. So like, if you had like say a hard suit, you got on Gateway or something else stupid like that, you could just be killed.
Yeah,
Okay.
the example, the other one that came up was with a player who got a Syndicate hardsuit through the Gateway, which qualified him as an EOC, but you couldn't execute for just being an EOC. However, he then proceeded to slip an officer on a Syndicate soap, which could sort of be counted as battery, and because you were allowed to execute an EOC for if they had another crime.
I think it was major crime though.
Yeah, the major crime was the EOC one.
Yeah, no, I think it's EOC and a major crime is required for execution, not EOC alone.
Oh yeah, no, but their major crime was the contraband.
Ah.
So that's how someone almost got executed for slipping an officer on soap. And then so execution rules kind of are interesting. That's
broken. Little bit. And right now it doesn't appear we have any questions here. Somebody asked if Para has 2 servers, said something about Sigurd. Sigurd was a sister server, not a second server, back when I think back when we originally launched, and back when I think it ended back when Mel had the server. Sigurd was a high RP thingy, and it was individually managed, individually handled, just had the same server hosts. So they're no longer around anymore as far as I'm aware, but people still are, and they're about the Space Station 13 community. So if you manage to recognize anyone from it, just give them a little shout. Tend to be nice people. It used to be, I think, the high RP side of things, but yeah. And there are currently no more questions, so I'll give like 10 minutes for anything anyone wants to discuss, and then I'll open the floodgates to the terrible, terrible thing known as voice chat.
No.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Never.
This is what happens at the end of every... Oh, my bad. Somebody said wiki progress.
Once you do that.
When will the wiki be completed? I don't know, actually. I personally have absolutely no idea.
We can't really complete the wiki. It's like trying to complete the game. We keep adding more shit to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of impossible. I mean, we can always keep making it better, but we can't complete the wiki. That's not a possible task.
I mean, technically it wouldn't be a wiki if it could be completed.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're saying the robotics wiki needs help.
A lot of the wiki needs help. It's all life support. It's so fucking outdated. It needs a cane.
Help the wiki today.
Fucking
Make
walker.
a difference yourself.
Yes, join the Wikipedia team. It's a good thing to do if you want to help.
Yeah. Someone has also asked, let's see, what is this? When will Lava Land be added? We've talked about Lava Land a few times. It's just, we're not sure. The guy porting Lava Land kind of quit. So, I don't know.
He decided he didn't like me, so he left.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. I didn't like him either.
And then someone said, when will Lava Land be removed?
I'm kidding. I liked him. He was supporting Lava Land, for fuck's sake. Yeah, we can't really... if somebody wants to port Lava Land, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd give you my pocket lint.
It's a huge amount of work. Lava Land touches down on a lot of different parts of the code, and basically it'd be one of the biggest undertakings.
It's like that, Parallax, Clockwork Cult, which I really want, by the way. Fucking Gangs, which Ponies tried porting a few years back. Nobody really could fix that. Devil Mode, all that shit.
Vox Raiders.
Okay, Vox Raider. Oh god, no, that's a separate. Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want to traverse this road.
Wiki thing here. Gundas says, please announce that Gundas and Chadykins are the wiki curators and happen to exist. They're trying their hardest to fix the wiki. Please report problems to them.
I was wondering
I have a problem to report. It's not perfect. What the fuck isn't it perfect?
And there's
let's see.
Because nobody's perfect.
By tomorrow, it should be perfect by my standards.
Yeah. Is there going to be new haircuts for Tajarans?
No.
That's up to people making new haircuts. You have to
How about
submit a
dreaming?
little cosmetic PR and stuff.
Can we get
What
an
I'm doing
afro?
is
We need more
I-
players.
probably just give afros
Question
to
with
cats.
afro. Yes, and Gandalf beards.
Kai with a neon green afro.
Oh, fuck
still,
no. Can we have a Bob Ross tiara?
I'd love
Right.
that.
Let us
Currently,
paint
mining
an
is
angry little tree
Oh.
over here.
yeah. Currently,
continue.
mining is safe for most situations that befall the station. Will any trouble come for them eventually during rounds, or is Lava Land the only hope? Currently, the mining
Lava Land's
is
gonna. Oh, no, go ahead.
yeah. Lava Land's gonna fuck everything up. But currently, mining is TG mining, so it's you have the left side, which is the hostile mob area, and then you have the right side, which is basically easy mode. So left side ends up being where you'll fight basilisks, Goliaths, gold grubs, which just run from you, but you can feed them and they have rare stuff. And then there's also the Hive Lords, which Hive Lords are made.
Also,
Wait, so the question was people dying in the current mining area being fucked?
No, saying, will there be any trouble that comes for them during rounds, or is Lava Land the only hope for trouble in mining?
Yeah, there's
Well,
no real passive danger to mining. There's only active danger in the mobs. I guess you could consider like running out of air or pressure as a passive danger, but it's kind of moot. So yeah, it's kind of they're a little separated from the station, and there's no real passive danger there. But it would be cool to change that somehow, and that's what Lava Land would definitely bring with the ash storms and all of the
Boss
ghost rolls.
monsters.
Oh yeah, boss monsters would be a massive one.
Well, mining used to be even safer back in the day when we didn't even have the monsters on the mining outpost.
Oh yeah, that was a really good change. I really liked having monsters there.
Yeah.
That and the pneumatic cannon fire sound is glorious. Well, not pneumatic, whatever it is, the mining cannon thing.
The proto-kinetic accelerator.
Yes.
Love that thing.
The just sound of it is glorious, whoever made that.
I personally prefer the plasma cutter, but that's just me.
Well,
No.
everybody does. That's like a straight upgrade in some sense.
Really recently I've had an experience with it and it kind of sucked. Still.
No, it sucks, but I love using it anyways, because it's awesome.
What are the thoughts on recent chem changes where, for example, neurotoxin was nerfed to oblivion and on-impact chems were removed from syringe guns? Could it be argued that this is driving chem to be more lethal and cause more death with the lack of non-lethal takedowns? No, I don't think so. I think that on contact was mostly a lot of the F-acid syringe gun mixes and stuff like that. I don't, let's see, non-lethal takedowns. I'm not quite sure. I don't know where I would push it, actually. Anyone else have any ideas on it? Or
What was the
I
question?
don't know what they're specifically talking to, because everything I know of is all lethal stuff that lights you on fire immediately.
yeah. What are the thoughts?
Unextinguishable.
I'll repeat it. Sorry. What are the thoughts on recent chem changes, where, for example, neurotoxin was nerfed to oblivion and on-impact chems were removed from syringe guns? Could it be argued that this is driving chem to be more lethal and cause more death with a lack of non-lethal takedowns?
I think it was a good change. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Well,
neurotoxin was never really meant to be a combat chemical. It was a drink, really, and it just sort of got exploited into that, and that's kind of how I feel it ended up spiraling into being the combat chemical that everybody turned to. And stuns are basically wins in combat.
Yeah.
Stuns are king. That's basically the thing. And us pushing towards more, or I guess less stuns and chemicals doesn't necessarily translate into more lethal combat, because with the stuns, it was already pretty lethal. The stun was just on top of all of the other chemicals if you were in combat.
Question: how do you help out with the wiki? It's more a contributor thing. well, just in general, anyone can contribute a page to it, though we do have a wiki team as far as I'm aware. I personally don't really submit much, honestly, because, well, I'm not super in-depth on some mechanics. Not me, but people in general, they're saying. So we've got a wiki team. I don't know that much. The most you can do is kind of like how you would edit a Wikipedia article. You could submit a revision and it could get reviewed by the wiki team, and they could see if they should add it or not, or do a little touch up here and there. So there might be an edit button on a page. Let me pull up the wiki right now. Unless anyone's died.
I died internally.
What?
What?
Wiki allows anyone to edit, they're saying. Good.
Do you need me
Yeah.
to replace your battery?
Wake me up.
I can wake you up on LAN.
No,
Save me.
you stay away from me.
Mm.
I don't want your lizard.
Let's see. I have a question. Are there any plans of implementing anything for Ghost to do, apart from being NPCs and the occasional mid-round end tag? Currently, there's a little machine, admins can spawn, that basically allows Ghosts to kind of pop into a certain area. I'm wondering if there could be a little, space friggin' like cafe or whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be neat.
TG a few years back had the exact same idea. They called it Space Valhalla, and it was a place ghosts could go to when they died, and they could just chill out, drink, watch the round through cameras. And it was something I kind of wanted to bring to Paradise, and I made a suggestion for it somewhere on the forums. I don't know where.
You can have a
And,
magic space sports bar.
With with that fucking respawner, we could probably do it with some tweaks to it.
Yeah,
It just
probably,
needs tweaks.
probably a little
But yeah,
map
that'd be
to
awesome.
Z level 2.
Yeah, Fox
Yeah, something like
posted.
that. That'd be
He
awesome.
brought
You'd
up
probably
that
have to make
Logland.
it so people can't really attack each other on it, because I can see now people just going ballistic unless we start adminning it, which is going to be ridiculous. But like I said, it'll need tweaks for it to work. But I think it's an awesome fucking idea, and we should do it.
That would be awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and if Lavaland was ported, there are tons of ghost roles available on that. That would be perfect for stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And
Not quite
another
that easy,
thing.
Varg. God mode is so broken, it's not even funny. Go on.
What do the admins think of giving ghosts VR access? Oh, that's kind of a meta potential thing. That's an issue.
No.
I would think it would
Pretty
be
much.
cool, but yeah,
Maybe if it's done right and you can't
possibly.
speak or emote, because I can guarantee you.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for meta, and especially as soon as we allow ghosts to interact with normal players or alive players, I should say, in any way, the potential of meta is just we can't govern that, and that's not something that I don't think it'd be feasible to implement without enforcing it extremely strictly, and it's not something I think that would be like a healthy contribution to the actual game.
And for the current things that you can already spawn into, like ghost rolls, are a lot easier to maintain because we see a lot of that shit. With VR, it's going to be much more difficult because it's like looking at two different stations at once. And there's also the fucking... I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, that. I'm not making too much sense here, but I'm trying, okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Try harder.
Let's see.
Silence you.
So there appear to be no other questions that have been submitted. So again, I'll give them 5 minutes. If you'd like to submit anything, then please do.
Does this
Can
look
sit-
infected?
Oh, someone is sending, can we be friends? I mean,
No.
yeah, why not?
No.
Aw. What's going to happen with X-Ray is being posted by a KupoFire9 in the chat. Let's see. So, X-Ray, I don't really know if we've got anything there. Anyone have any plans on that? Are there any PRs up for it? Or doesn't look like it.
Remind me what we're talking
X-ray.
about. Oh,
Specifically.
I've seen a lot of complaints about it recently. I mean, it's kind of an issue. It's kind of not. It's been in the code for fucking years. I mean, we used to have that whole X-ray TK Hulk bullshit. If anybody remembers that, where people would run up to the AI core when it was rogue and just smash it to pieces from the outside. So, I mean, honestly, we've got that out of the way. Things like that. I don't really see too much of an issue with X-ray. I do admit that there are a lot of cases in which shit gets out of hand with it, but
Yeah.
it's a random chance to get it, so you're not always going to be able to get it.
Yeah. Also, what are you talking about? Maybe X-ray lasers, Kupo. I don't know quite particularly what they were asking. Hold on.
I think one of the things that people have been talking about more when it comes to X-ray is the X-ray implants that science has access to.
Yes, they were talking about
Well,
X-ray
you
vision.
can EMP those. Those things are honestly worse than the fucking genetic power, because you can just literally EMP people with those. And it'll fuck up their eyes, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yep, that's pretty much how I feel.
They're not harder to get.
Yeah, they're a little easier to get in some cases, depending on how science is
really
going.
depends.
And it can be distributed pretty easily too, I feel. That's
Illegal
probably
research
what people
is
are getting at.
Illegal research is really easy to get, Bird Talon. It's oh my god.
Do you get it from X-ray lasers?
Well,
I mean,
you can just run off to the fucking derelict and get a few things like that toolbox, and then you can just go from there. It's not even that hard. Things like that. Or the gateway missions, where there's a few things scattered here and there. It's not that hard to get illegal tech.
There's also another question here. Brief follow-up to the VR access to ghosts. Maybe adding controllable NPCs like aliens or spiders to some of the combat maps would possibly be good for them? For ghosts in VR? Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, but then what are they going to do if nobody is in VR?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're kind of just sitting there, I guess.
Have a log out button that just phases out the mob. Also, Tiger might want to discuss Delta Station. Just one little more question. I'm not sure if Tiger can unmute himself or not.
Well, he's a maintainer. He should be able to.
Should be able to.
I can unmute him. Hi, Tiger. Speak to us. I've unmuted you.
Oh, no mic. Apparently.
Well, fuck.
They can discuss it in the chat a bit. Delta Station was a question early on based on the forum things, and I don't really have much to say on it since I'm not quite sure. And also, what are the admin team's thoughts about baseball bats with nails in the metal rods?
We are not Hippie Station.
Baseball bats, are kind of...
We are not Hippie Station.
They seem to encourage a lot of grey-tide behavior.
Yeah, bats are already really
Baseball
strong.
Bats, they're fucking hilarious.
I mean, if baseball bats have their damage reduced and stuff like that balanced a bit more, then it would be fine. Really.
Yeah, I think they're kind of neat, but oh dear lord, the things I've seen people do with them.
Yeah, taking out an alien
Slapping
queen
a Xeno
101.
queen.
Hey guys! I mean, I'm gonna make an Earthbound Nest style character, the baseball bat.
Yeah, it's actually kind of bad because nothing checks on certain ones of those. So you can basically baseball bat anything based on how it's put into the code.
Just baseball bat welder fuel tanks. Home run explosion.
That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, if you could just smack an igniter like a baseball across the station and just use it as a mini IED or something, that would be great. Or whack grenades away and something.
Let's see. Bats smack away small objects if they're thrown at you. That'd be cool.
Perfect. What is the consensus about the current state of genetics? For example, is it too powerful, too boring, etc.
Talking about genetics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with all the things you can get with it, sometimes 10 minutes into the frickin' round, sometimes an hour and a half. Really just depends on what you get. It is literally RNG, the job. So
Slot machining the job.
Yeah, slot machine.
I said RNG, the job.
Same thing.
Damn it. But yeah, close enough. It really just depends on your luck. Kind of like lottery, which I think people shouldn't play, but...
Yeah. So I'll let this go on. Maybe if anyone has any other questions, then again, extend it a little bit by 5 minutes. Again.
What about my question? My question was important.
Oh, hold on. No, you may not QR code ERP. Please, no.
Damn. I can't share my QR code.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came back.
Oh, hi,
back.
Tully. How's life?
Welcome back.
We've answered all the questions popping up, so unless a few
Fantastic.
more pop in. Ooh, hold on. Did you discuss a job called cyberneticist?
Oh, that was something
no.
that Ponies brought up a long time ago, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
That's
Well, it's
ancient.
been brought up a lot. It's been brought up a few times in the recent... I don't know if it was in staff chat, but I know that the admins were talking about it at least. That would be kind of neat, though.
It'd be a separate job from roboticist, and it would be more the science and medical kind of in between, similar to genetics. And it would deal with the cybernetics, obviously. And
Of
it's a
course,
really interesting idea, but, you know...
We need implants that would be fitting for early round type things that aren't fucking overpowered as shit, like X-ray and stuff.
And another thing is, do we need that kind of job when we already have medical doctors, roboticists, and stuff like that? But if we were to do more of an expansion on cybernetics as a whole, then that job might become more necessary. So it's more of a reactionary thing.
Plus, do keep in consideration that that would be a job that would be gated behind the work that science does. As in, the cyberneticist could either have access to most of all the tools done for their job, or they would have absolutely nothing, depending on whether or not science does research.
Or mining does mining for material.
That's a very valid point as well. And it is one thing that can be pretty frustrating, for example, if you're already playing the robotist role, that there's nobody that wants to do R&D and you have to go do it yourself, despite the fact that the robotist role is normally super, super busy in the early game. And it's only further down the line or further in the round that it actually starts clearing off that you have time to go and do R&D yourself. So it is something that, I mean, it's something that can be looked at, most definitely.
All right. So we do have two last questions here if we want to wrap this up about, don't know what it is, GMT. I think it's going to be around 7:15 or over here about 4:15.
It's almost 9:15 now in GMT.
All right, I'm totally smart. Hold on. I can't math very well. It's Saturday. Right. So how do you feel about xenobiology and its interaction with the ship?
You mean station.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we talking about? Xenos and their ship?
How do you feel about xenobiology and its interaction with the station?
Yeah,
Stop sending your damn mobs out to attack antags.
Oh yeah, that's another big thing.
That's annoying. That's very annoying. That's bad.
It's
if you turn yourself into a shadow person, don't be surprised when people go, "Oh shit, shadowlings." I mean, there's a difference, but it's hard to see for some people. Things like that. Just, keep in mind of what you're doing, because a lot of it will have impact on the round in vast ways, or could end up with your death very quickly.
It is an incredibly modular kind of job, because it can do a lot of stuff if you do the right things with slimes. You can bring more ghost rolls into the thing with golems and sentience potions. You could bring more materials with metal slimes and silver slimes and stuff like that. You can do a lot of stuff with all the different things, so it's really open-ended in what you can do with xenobiology. It's really what you make it, really.
All right. And then finally here, since appears to be the last question, what led to the removal of the science outpost? I think it was mostly because of Cult using it as a base most of the time, or
It was
generally
not
just...
necessarily. It was mostly because it was never used for its intended purpose. Also
because
because it's
Xenoarch.
Yeah, it was built almost entirely around xenoarchaeology and tinkering around with xenoarchaeology. After xenoarchaeology was removed, it was kept around because no one wanted to remove it. Eventually, they removed the airlocks and the ability to go outside. And eventually, because really it had no real reason to exist, it was just removed outright.
The only problem with that is that the Antag bases have gotten a lot of better places.
Yeah, they got more creative because of that.
Well, that's not really creative. They just do the same shit every round. They go to the DJ outpost or the construction site on the engineering area. I mean, those areas are a lot harder to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So, honestly, by removing the science outpost, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, so to speak. Unintentionally. We had no fucking way of knowing because, god damn it. But that's kind of what ended up happening.
I mean,
I'm kind of sad about that.
I'm not.
They are asking. What?
Oh, I'm just saying I'm not upset that the outpost is gone now. It was
it was a good removal. But it did end up causing people to find even worse places for their bases.
We could never assume the repercussions of our actions. Now,
why was xenoarchaeology removed? I think it was just really aged Kale code that wouldn't merge with TG mining really well without a lot of extra work put into it, so it was just scrapped entirely. That and the artifacts were kind of insane.
I think Tiger was going, no, salvage this, and then they took like 2 minutes to look at that code, and they're like, oh, fuck no. And yeah, it was removed.
Xenoarch is an example of inherited code that really doesn't play well with anything other than itself. Plus the fact that most of the time didn't even work. Like the minor artifacts were completely useless. The machines that were supposed to do the whole evaluation of the artifact were most often than not completely useless because the only things you could ever get were either infinite Corgi spawning machines or just atmospheric nightmares that just shat out N2O.
And they're also asking, are there any plans to bring it back? And if it wasn't that good, was there any plans for a tweaked version of it?
I know that somebody
Jetter
on the staff. Yeah, Jetter was working on something.
But he gave up on it because I think he had something else to do. He had life. So, yeah.
All right. Speaking of Science Outpost, why is the Engineering Outpost still here? Science Outpost was removed, they're asking.
Because the Engineering Outpost still has use.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit not as much use, or not that much use still, but it still has use to engineers that want to build their own thing. People do use it. It's just fucking rare.
Mm-hmm. I do remember the first time where it was still by Arrivals, and we still had Clown Planet as a gateway. Please bring it back.
God, yeah, that was
good memories.
Love Clown Planet. You have the mime machine that just grayscaled everything, but you ended up going to the NG station by shuttle near Arrivals. And so what you ended up doing is getting a team of maybe like a few medical personnel, security in case there was a traitor or something. And you would get some science people and, of course, a team of engineers. And we took this little crew led by the captain and started rebuilding this big thing by the end of the round. We ended up having about, I want to say, we had AI core built, we had medical built, bit of sec was done, bridge was not even near done. I think it was still exposed to space. but we had lights and doors and everything working out pretty well. We just engines weren't set up quite right. So, yeah, I like
We
NG.
need to bring back the snowmobiles.
Oh no, the snowmobile.
I remember those. Those were silly. I loved them.
Bring back the sports car thing instead. It was
I remember
phenomenal.
the wizard had a spell that gave him a sports car or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a thing.
Hence the image. Hold on.
Yeah, the VG lobby image.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we never had that. I must have.
No, we never had it. VG does.
Darn. It is pretty silly.
If only. And that appears to be everything. So unless anyone else has extra questions. Oh, speaking of which, does KC-13 really exist, or is it some extreme conspiracy?
Does what exist?
KC-13, it's the name of the Russian station.
Oh,
There
That
is
would
no
really
Russian
not
station.
exist.
Derelict
It is-
station.
that
There
would
is
be
no
the
Russian station. KC-13 does not exist. Thank you.
Get
Have
out.
Get out of here, stalker.
Breaky.
We need Sass to start talking. Or free.
Anyway, if that's everything, then I assume that we can.
I have a question.
We can wrap it up. There
Oh,
is
God
one
damn it.
person
Odd
still
question.
typing, though.
Can we not open this up to the? I'm kidding.
Yeah,
There's
no.
one person
Whoa.
still typing. We can play Cards Against Humanity afterwards.
How is
Yeah.
that?
And open up the floodgates of
Anyway,
terrible things.
it's been 3 hours and 20 minutes, so I think that we can. Oh no, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I think we can call this a meeting. That was the fourth Paradise Community meeting. Thank you all for coming up. We will be providing the recorded version as soon as Tiger gets it done, and that will be it. Tiger, you can stop recording now.
No,
And
no.
we're going to be opening the floodgates as soon as I figure out how to do it.